Okay, we're live on YouTube now, and oh, great turnout. Okay, I'm not even going to try to get Twitch to work today. I'm just happy that everybody's here and we can do this for real because this is one that I've been pretty excited about. This is something I've been doing research on for a while, and yeah, I think this is going to be really important. So today, I want to talk about mindsets and the mindsets that you would use or mindsets we can have to help us get better at art. Because a lot of what holds people back, in my experience online, especially, it's not that you don't know what to study or you don't have talent. It's that people tend not to stick to it. A lot of people quit. They give up or they start and stop or they procrastinate. And this isn't me just observing this. This is what people tell me. This is when I ask, what's holding you back in art? This is people tell me it's perfectionism, it's procrastination, it's not being able to stick with it. And this isn't really specifically about art, but this is something that you have to overcome. So this is what today's lecture is going to be about. So before I get into this, let me talk a little bit about what these streams are in general, even though most of you have been here before. But if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching a recording, you might want to know. So I teach drawing fundamentals both online and at an animation school. And when I teach online, I like to do these classes that, because these feel a lot more like the real life classes. I also make YouTube videos and I have a free book that you can download. The link to those is in the description. But if you went to a class, like a real life art class, and all they did was play YouTube videos, you probably wouldn't think it was a very good class. So this is why I do these to bring that real life class kind of feel back to it. Um, and in real life classes, it's not just me giving you information, it's a conversation. It goes back and forth. In real life classes, I have social cues. I can see people's faces and I realize when it's time for me to let other people talk. But in online, I don't have those so much. So if you have something to say, just talk into the mic. Don't worry about interrupting me. It's fine. If you don't want to talk into the mic or you're on YouTube, then you can just type into the chat and I'll respond to you there. Um, so let me, before I get into talking, um, tell me if you guys have problems with either procrastination, sticking with it, perfectionism, any of those kind of things.
Yeah,
Yeah?
like it's very hard to stick to like I don't think it's very hard to me to draw, but to stick to exercises that are not immediately what I want to draw, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep postponing on yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else
I
wanna?
find,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I find that I have a hard time sticking to the exercises, and I maybe have too much inspiration going around with the internet, where I get distracted by a cool new project idea, and then I'm not working on building the same skills that I was 2 weeks ago, and so I'm just pulled in too many directions.
Hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that being a problem. But I mean, having inspiration is a good thing. But yeah, I can see how that would drive you in different directions. I'm gonna draw while we do this, so the video is not just a blank drawing canvas the whole time, but it doesn't
I,
even
uh,
have anything to do with what
I,
I'm.
I, struggle with immense sense of disappointment every single time something doesn't turn out the way that I want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big one. That that sense of frustration, failure when your drawings don't turn out. Um, okay, so let me instead of starting with the mindset, I'm going to start with an analogy. So in martial arts, which is not something I'm an expert on, but this is uh, something I know that's true in martial arts, is that 90% of people who start martial arts never become black belts. And the people who do become black belts are not necessarily the most talented, they're not the fastest, they're not the strongest. They're the ones who stick with it and put in consistent effort and study and practice for 3 to 5 years. Maybe more, maybe less. The 3 to 5 years is just kind of an approximation. And as you can imagine, it's the same thing in art. And this is like, I think we all kind of know this intuitively, right? That if I want to get good, I have to keep at this consistently for a long time. But knowing it and doing it are two separate things. And a lot of the issues people have are not a lack of knowledge or a lack of willpower, but they're issues with mindset and identity. So this lecture is going to be about how to become the kind of person that would do those 3 to 5 years of dedicated study, so that in 3 to 5 years, you're a black belt artist. So the first thing we have to do is think about what it would be like to be a black belt artist. You really have to connect to this goal, because that's going to be your North Star for everything else. So somebody who's been studying for art consistently for 3 to 5 years, at that point, they're probably have their fundamentals down pretty solid. It's not that that everything they make is going to be amazing and they'll never do bad drawings, or they can just draw whatever they want on the first try. I've been doing this for decades. That just doesn't happen for anybody. But what does happen is you get to the level where your technical skills aren't the thing they don't hold you back very much. And it's not that you get everything right, but it's that you know how to learn to get the things that you want. So if I wanted to learn to study something, I know how to do it. I know how to practice it, and I'll eventually, it's not going to be the first drawing. It might not even be the second or third, but I'll eventually be able to get it. And that's a reasonable level to be aiming for in 3 to 5 years. Does that sound like something you want?
Yeah. Not like, at least for me, it's not having to fight the canvas and whatever I'm using to paint.
Mm-hmm.
That's very objective.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Like that's black belt, the black belt level art to me. Is you're not fighting the technique anymore. You're dealing with creative problems, and sometimes you're going to get the technique wrong, but it's less about getting bogged down in technical stuff and more about just being free and being creative with it.
Yeah.
So if that sounds like something you want, then what's really important here is that you connect with this goal. You think about it. You imagine yourself having it, and imagine like how awesome it would feel to be able to make art like that, to not have to struggle with technical stuff, to have things kind of come out not necessarily the way you want right away, but you'll be more confident that they will. And at least you'll be familiar with the process enough to know when it doesn't, you'll have some idea of why not. And I really want you to connect with this goal, because this is going to motivate everything else that we talk about today. So one thing you can do is, this would be a good subject for a creative visualization, which I'm not going to get into, but this is because that would be like a whole nother lecture, and maybe I can do that some other time if there's interest for it. But you imagine yourself already having these skills and how awesome it would be. So yeah, and like this is something that you would think about every day, like how awesome it would be to have these skills. Really, really connect to that, because that's gonna motivate everything else. So once you have that in mind, I think the problem is there is no assurance that you would reach this high level even if you study. Yes, I guess, but I can't say with 100% certainty that yes, you will if you study. but I can say that it's very likely. And maybe it takes more than 3 to 5 years, depending on various factors that may or may not be within your control. But if you do study consistently, you will reach that high level eventually. Um, that happens like everybody I know who's done this study has reached there. And I know there are people who draw for 3 to 5 years and don't improve very much, but they're probably not actively pushing themselves to get better for those whole 3 to 5 years, or they're doing it in an ineffective way. But we're not getting into the details on how to study in this lecture. That will I have lots of materials for that. The course, the Get Wins course, is about how to study in addition to drawing from life. So I don't want to get bogged down in the how to study part of this. Um, and yeah, there's no guarantee, but it's very likely. And there's no guarantee in anything in life. So if you're only doing things that you 100% know will work, then you're really not doing anything. Um, so let's talk about some mindset shifts that will help you achieve this. And the first one, and I think this is the most important mindset shift that I'm going to talk about today, is the shift. I'll write this one down because it's so important. It's the shift. We're going to shift our definition of success. So we're shifting from perfection, and I think that's very fitting that I just started off spelling it wrong, to direction. So what I mean by that is right now you might feel like a success is when you do a really good drawing, a drawing that you're happy with. And sure, that is a success, but it's not the only success that I want us to shoot for. So if we really believe that our goal is to get to where we would be with 3 to 5 years of study, then anything that moves us in that direction of those 3 to 5 years of study is a success. That's what I mean by direction. So any step towards that is a success. If you sit down to draw and practice and your drawings are bad, that's still a success. You're moving in the right direction. If you tell yourself you're going to draw for X amount of time and you don't draw, but then the next day you draw for, I don't know, maybe even only a few minutes, that's a success. You're moving in the direction of your goal. I want to take a little pause here, ask if there's any questions or thoughts on this, because this is one of the keys that without this, the rest of this won't work. It's also hard to talk and draw at the same time.
Yeah, I wanted to add, by the way, I made it from work.
Yes.
I wanted to add that about perfectionism, like if you look closely, and everybody has a different type of work that they want to do. I mean, like paintings or drawings that they want to create. If you look closely at your favorite masters or anything like that, look for mistakes. I really encourage everybody to look for imperfect lines, wobbly lines, like Russian masters like Repin. Some of the hands they did, every perfect, beautiful, classical oil painting, they actually have many mistakes, and sometimes they like copy and pasted faces, or like three people have the same facial expression. Like, it's about the big picture, and you cannot be a perfectionist to create perfection is the enemy of mastery, in my opinion. Like, you cannot be a perfectionist and create a masterpiece, actually, because you will think about, oh, this fingernail has to be perfect, oh, this line, the vanishing points are not correct. You have to think about the overall picture. And in the classic academic French schools, they had the word for it. It's ensemble or something like that. It was, they would sacrifice everything for the big picture, for the overall picture. So like, it's important. Basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. I know from my experience, or like those human faced dogs they used to paint. Yeah. Like I know from my experience as an animator, there are a lot of frames that I've done in my life, a lot of drawings where I'm like, man, I hope no one still frames this one because this looks bad. But those made it into TV and I got paid for them. So yeah, like it's not about making everything perfect. The other thing that's important about the perfection, or sorry, the direction over perfection thing, is we're going to get into the territory of self-help kind of with this because I'm talking about changing beliefs and changing your identity. And there's a danger with self-help where when you give somebody a good mindset that they can use to improve their life, in some ways that's a good thing, but in other ways some people will take that and be like, "Oh great, there's another thing I'm fucking up. I can't even get this mindset right." So what I'm asking you to do today, or suggesting that you do today, is making a really fundamental identity change in fundamental changes to your beliefs. And those aren't going to happen overnight. It's just because some guy on the internet told me to change my beliefs doesn't mean that years of the way I think and experience is just going to change like that. You're going to backslide and you're going to not be able to, or you're going to backslide into old beliefs that don't work for you. And there's a temptation to be like, oh, I'm fucking up this too. The direction is when you do have beliefs that are holding you back, or you see yourself in a way that's not conducive to becoming the artist you want to be, you don't beat yourself up. You just reframe and go and try and tell yourself that you want to believe these other things instead. The like you don't have to have your mindset perfect either. It's all a work in progress. So, okay, let's move on to identity because I keep mentioning identity. And what I mean by that is seeing yourself as an artist. And it seems like a weird thing to say, but this is super, super important because our actions that we take in our day-to-day life, being able to do the thing, it's sure you can get there with motivation and willpower, but they're not reliable, especially not long term. And especially motivation. Sometimes motivation's not going to work. Sometimes
Yeah, motivation is for 2 weeks, basically.
yeah. Yeah, like you have all this intensity for a while and then it's not sustainable. It runs out. Um yeah. And willpower is better than motivation, and you're going to need it at some points in your life, but that's not great long term either because you'll burn yourself out or you'll hate it because you're forcing yourself to do something. But identity, when you see yourself as an artist, art is just something you do. So it will come naturally to do these things. It'll be like you don't have to will yourself to brush your teeth usually or tie your shoes. It's just things you do. Um, so what I mean by seeing yourself as an artist is let's have our definition here. Um, I'm just on different layers all over the place. Great. So an artist is someone who makes art regularly. Can we agree on that definition of artist? So, agree. Great. So I want you to notice something about that definition. Nowhere in that definition do I describe what your art has to look like, how good it has to be, what other people think of it, or whether you're getting paid for it. So you don't become an artist when you get a certain number of likes or follows on your social media art account. You don't become an artist when you get paid to be an artist. You become an artist when you consistently or when you regularly make art. And I want you to really believe that you're an artist. And you might not yet. And that's okay, because that's what we're going to work towards. Because when you believe you're an artist, some artists even avoid exposure or getting paid. I would probably not want to avoid getting paid, but that's a separate problem. Um, so what do I mean by well, okay, yeah. So you might not believe this yet, and yeah, some just do it for enjoyment. Yeah, 100% that they're still artists. Um, so you might not believe that you're an artist yet. That's fine. And I mean, you might not even be. You might not do this regularly. You might be aspirational, like you really want to, but you don't. But I want if you do want this long-term goal, at some point you're going to want to identify as an artist to make sure you stay consistent for those 3 to 5 years. So honestly, I struggle. Sorry. Honestly, I need to hear this because sometimes I struggle with my identity as an artist. Yeah, a lot of us do. Um, Let me, I don't want to get into a story. I want to keep this, I want to make sure we get through all of this because there's a lot I want to cover today and I want to have time for the back and forth as well. Um, so if you don't believe you're an artist yet, and I tell you that you're an artist and that you fit the definition, and you know intellectually you fit the definition of an artist, but you might not believe it yet because beliefs in who you are deep seated. They're not going to change because you rationally know that they're correct. You need to convince yourself over a long period of time, and by that I mean weeks or months, not necessarily years, but I mean the longer this you convince yourself, the stronger. And you don't convince yourself that you are a certain kind of person or you have a certain identity by telling yourself this or by trying to convince yourself intellectually. This isn't, we're not talking about affirmations where you stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself you're an artist. That's bullshit. It doesn't work. And you know it doesn't work on some level. Like, if you saw somebody else do that, do you think somebody who is an artist has to stand in front of the mirror and tell themselves they're an artist? No, it's silly. If anything, when you do that, you're telling yourself you're not an artist. It's like my favorite scene from Game of Thrones, where Joffrey is yelling that he's the king, and you have to obey him. Any man who says he's the king has to tell people he's the king is no true king. So, people in an area where constant improvement is required will feel that way inevitably. Yeah, I don't want to say that this is required, but if you do have improvement consistently, you'll feel that way. Um, so you don't convince yourself that you're an artist by telling yourself. You convince yourself through your actions. But before we can get into that, before we can get into the actions, there's a couple of beliefs and mindsets that I need to address that make the change possible. So the first is what's called a growth mindset. Sorry, I have to check my notes sometimes. It's hard to think and draw at the same time. Hard to think, talk, and draw at the same time, and I'm trying to. Maybe I should just give up on the drawing. But anyway, the growth mindset is a belief that your skills, that your identity, that all of these things are flexible and they can change through your actions. So obviously, if you're going to try to change your identity and your beliefs, you need to believe that it's possible. And it's hard to convince people, again, because these beliefs aren't rational. But try to believe it or try to act as if it's true. And if you do that, eventually you'll find evidence that it's true. That's how our beliefs work in general. A lot of time we start with a belief and then our brain finds reasons in reality that it's true. It filters for those reasons. So if you believe that you're a terrible artist, you'll see all the mistakes in your art and your brain will convince you that you're a terrible artist. If you believe that it's possible to improve and change your mentality through action, then you'll start to see evidence of your mentality changing through your actions. So act as if it's true until you convince yourself it's true. The opposite of the growth mindset is what's called a fixed mindset. And this one is a real problem for artists, real problem for anybody, but especially artists, which is the belief that who you are and your skills and your talent is something that is fixed, that you're born with, you can't change. And then if that's what you believe, then you'll find evidence in that everywhere. And that's really devastating because everybody makes bad drawings. It's part of, or everybody who does art at least, it's part of the process of making art is making bad drawings. But if you have a fixed mindset and you make a bad drawing, that's evidence that you just have no talent. You're just a hack. You don't have talent. You'll never make it. And once you start believing that, your brain will find evidence for that. And then you don't want to draw anymore because why would you put yourself through that? That sucks. So we want to believe that that you can change, that you can improve. Otherwise, none of the rest of this makes sense. Sometimes I make bad drawings on purpose, and then the good one hits 3 times as hard. Yeah, I wouldn't say I make bad drawings on purpose, but I do draw very quickly without really caring if they're good or not a lot of time. And those often turn out to be bad drawings. So yeah, it kind of gets you there. And when you do make bad drawings and then nothing bad happens, it makes it less scary. That's another way to avoid perfectionism. But that mindset belief can definitely the fixed mindset can really drive people to perfectionism in a way where making bad drawings hurts. It hurts your identity. It makes you feel like you're a terrible artist. But that's not true. It's just part of the process. So the next mindset that we have to take is an incrementalist mindset. What I mean by that is that the changes to your identity, to your skills, and to your life, they happen as a result of small but consistent actions that accumulate. It's a cumulative effect. Most of your life and your skills weren't decided by big dramatic events. They were decided by lots of small decisions that you kept doing over and over and over again. So when we're changing our identity, we're not going to have a big dramatic event. That's the opposite of the incrementalist mindset. It's that making the big shift where I suddenly declare myself an artist and now everything is different in my mindset. And now I can study all I want and I don't get tired, I don't get burned out, I don't have self-doubt because I had this one massive shift. It does not work that way. Or the alternative is you feel motivation all of a sudden, which hopefully after this lecture, you are going to feel very motivated. And then you're going to tell yourself, this is the time I change. This is the dramatic event. I'm going to spend 3 hours every day drawing, even though most days you maybe draw an hour, maybe you draw 10 minutes, maybe you don't draw at all. But all of a sudden, 3 hours a day, every day. Just this one dramatic, you want me to draw less than usual? No, you're in the fight. You're a black belt already, Wojciech.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got to lock. I know we got to lock in. Yeah. So yeah, but what I'm telling you is don't imagine that you're just suddenly going to lock in when you weren't before. We have to build to locking in because our brains, our beliefs, they're not designed to be accurate to reality. They're not designed to make us happy. They're designed to keep us safe. That's what our brain has evolved to do. It's evolved to keep us safe so we can somehow stagger to adulthood and reproduce and our genes get passed on. So big dramatic changes are scary to our sense of self, our identity. We don't know if they're safe. you know that your current beliefs are safe because they haven't got you killed yet, even if they're making you miserable. I'm not saying they are, but if they are, if they're not working for you, then and you want to change them, your brain is going to resist that because it's dangerous. You're potentially leaving the safe place that hasn't gotten you killed so far. And this is called homeostasis. Your brain wants to keep believing and seeing the world the way it does. If you make a huge sudden change, if you just feel this sudden motivation that you're going to lock in and you're going to draw 3 hours a day, and you do that, then you're going to be successful for a bit, but that homeostasis is going to kick in. Your brain is going to start telling you that, hey, this is not safe. This is scary. This is new. I don't like it. And then you're going to self-sabotage. This is normal. This is not you failing because you have bad willpower or whatever. This is what your brain is designed to do to keep you safe. So this is why the incrementalism is important. We want to incrementally make small but consistent efforts, because over time, that's going to convince you to take on these new beliefs. So that's the mindset stuff, or most of the mindset stuff so far. Let me pause to give this a chance to sink in and to give you guys a chance to say any or contribute to the conversation or ask questions, share your thoughts.
Oh yeah, I'd like to add something to the mindset. Like you hit it spot on, in my opinion. But I think also there's this quicksand effect. Like the more stagnant you are with the like fixed mindset, the harder it will be to see yourself change, to change some habits. And the more accepting of change you are, the whole process is just better. Like my example is that I never hanged I never hanged my art in my room, and like my parents have my art, but I never did. And I like my art. I actually really like it, but I always had this thought. It was kind of natural to me that why would I hang something if I'm gonna be better in 2 months? Like why? Like, so to me, it's just that I was always like embracing that this is not how I'm gonna stay. I'm always gonna improve. So my art will always kind of evolve. So maybe this will help to someone.
Yeah, I like that mindset. I think that's really nice. Cool. So we've talked a lot about mindset. Let's talk about action, because I kept saying this, right? You need action to convince yourself. You need action to convince yourself that this new identity is real, that I am an artist, and I make art regularly. So, like I said, this is why you needed those mindset shifts for this, because we're going to set goals, and these goals can be very easy, but in fact, they should be very easy, because these are going to give you those wins that keep you going. So it feels good when you set a goal and you hit it. And when you do that, that is going to convince you that you are this new identity. You are this person who sets goals and meets them. You are this artist who can follow through to make art. So when you're making that change, the goal is, again, direction, not perfection. So as long as your goal is in the direction of that 3 to 5 years of study, then it's a good goal. And as long as it's in that direction and it's like not that much more than what you're doing. So if you don't have a regular practice of drawing, then even starting a regular practice, even if it's very simple, that's a huge step in the right direction. So let's say you just draw when you feel like it right now. I don't want you to stop doing that, but you want to start becoming that person who studies regularly so you can get to those 3 to 5 years of consistent study. So the first goal should be really easy, a really easy step in that direction. That first goal, let's say, is you're going to spend 10 minutes studying 3 times a week. That seems pretty manageable, right? Does anybody feel like they couldn't do that? Okay, no. You guys feel like that's pretty manageable. Just sit down and study art 3 times a week for 10 minutes. 3 times a week is doable even in hectic weeks. Yeah, I think, especially if it's just 10 minutes. So and this is just hypothetical. I'm not telling you that should be your goal. But if you don't have a regular practice, I think that's a good place to start. And you can do that. So after you've done those three, you set your goal. By this time next week, you'll have hit that goal. You got a win. You're getting a success. You're moving in the right direction, and you're starting to convince yourself that you are the kind of person who can set those goals. And now this is where the direction comes in, because next week you can make that goal a little bit harder. And again, this is where the incrementalism comes in. So next week, you did 3 times 10 minutes this week. Next week, maybe you're doing 4 times of 10 minutes, or maybe you're doing 3 times of 15 minutes. Either way, it's not a big change, but it's a slow incremental growth. If you do that regularly, then eventually you'll be doing an hour a day. Or, I mean, I don't know how much free time you have. So, these are just hypotheticals. Or like maybe eventually you're doing like 15 hours a week of study. So basically start with small wins and gradually make things bigger until you have much bigger wins. Perfect. Yes, that is exactly what I'm talking about. This has that incremental effect. This will not create that homeostasis where you sabotage, and it's manageable. You'll do it, and it'll start to convince you that you are this artist who's going to spend 3 to 5 years studying and get really good, get your black belt. Let me just check my notes. And yeah, and it feels good. Feels good to hit your goals. Even if your goals are easy, it still feels good. And now this is where the temptation for what's honestly kind of self-sabotage comes in, where you're like 30 minutes a week, easy. I'm going to do more. I'm going to do 2 hours a day. And like I said, that you're going to create that homeostasis, and you probably won't be able to do that consistently. So the analogy for this is the New Year's resolution gym goer. I'm sure you've known somebody who does this. They're out of shape, they're eating junk food, they're laying on the couch, and then New Year's resolution comes in. They're like, this time I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to run. I'm going to lift weights, just be at the gym 5 days a week for an hour a day. And they're probably not making it to February with that. By the end of January, they're back on the couch. They're eating junk food. They're probably even fatter. That's the opposite, because the homeostasis is going to kick in. And, going to the gym actually can hurt if you're making sudden jumps, which won't be physically painful, at least. So don't be the New Year's resolution guy. Keep it simple and build, because that's what actually works. Okay. So that's what I've laid out, is that like kind of everything is going right. You start with your 30 minutes, your 3 times a week, and eventually you get it up to an hour, let's say an hour and a half 3 times a week. It's just a hypothetical, but that would be great if you're studying an hour and a half 3 times a week. And then one week shit happens, you can't do it. Or you're months in and your drawing doesn't look that different. And this is realistic. Like, just because you're doing the right thing doesn't mean you see the results right away, which is why it's so important to set the goal in terms. Oh, actually, sorry, this was something I meant to include when I was talking about goal setting, is that your goal is what you can control. And the thing you have the most control over is how much time you spend making your art. You don't have control over how fast you improve. You don't have control over how good your art is going to be. Mostly, you don't have, and you do have control over how many drawings you get done. But if your goal is to produce a lot of drawings, then you're going to rush and you're going to make worse drawings. So your goal setting is time spent drawing per week. This leg is wrong. And I got distracted again. Okay, so yeah, you've been doing the right things for weeks, and you're not seeing as much progress as you like. You're getting demotivated. You're like, man, this sucks. Maybe I should just stop. Or just have all these negative feelings that come from art. Or even if everything's going right, sometimes you have a day where your art's just not doing what you want. You're gonna have, like, being an artist, you're inviting yourself some emotional pain. I think we all know this. If we're here, you've been through this. It's going to happen, even if you do everything right. So how do you deal with that emotional pain? Or that frustration or that failure? I'm going to reframe this, because that emotional pain, that suffering, it's actually a good thing. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but the way we're wired as humans, we value things that we have to put an effort and suffering to get. We're wired for this because, we evolved in a time, and kind of still live in a time, where life is full of suffering. If we didn't get meaning out of overcoming that suffering, why would we keep doing this? So when you go through those negative emotions and you push through and you get your goal anyway, or maybe you don't get the goal that week, you're taking a step back. But instead of quitting when you get frustrated and it feels like shit, you pick up again next week, next time, and you keep going in that direction over perfection. That isn't going to make you less motivated. That's going to make you more motivated. That's going to prove to you that you really are an artist, because you're willing to suffer for this. This goal of getting your art black belt is so worth it that you're going to suffer through it. And then the next time your art comes out bad and you feel shitty, you're ready for it. You've been through this before. You know that it's worth it because you made it before. So
That's so true.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I had the same experience. Like, things you talk about, I kind of had them. So and by the way, I want to add that for anybody who wonders if it's how fast is it gonna be for you to improve, whatever, when you push through a phase of not improving and you prove to yourself something that cannot be learned in a motivational speech or wherever, you cannot be told that. Whatever other people say, you cannot be told that, but you will learn this by yourself. Instinctually, you will understand something about yourself when you push through. And that cannot be you can read I don't know, 2,000 testimonies of people who made it, quote unquote. There's nothing on what you will learn about yourself.
Yeah, that was beautifully put. Yeah, what you learn from doing it, from living it, it's so much more real than anything you can learn any other way. Um, and yeah, like how long is this going to take? Man, 3 to 5 years is me taking my best guess. I have no idea how long it's going to take. And there's not like when you get to that 5 years, I'm not going to show up and give you a belt. You're still going to want to improve. I've been doing this for decades. I still want to improve. I'm still coming in to the art dojo and I'm still trying to get better. Um, but the goal is really that mindset, that identity that gets you to those 3 to 5 years because it keeps going. It keeps going after 3 to 5 years. Um, so we're almost out of time, and I want to wrap with this. Um, that hopefully if you've been following with me and you're feeling this, you're believing this, you've realized this isn't about art. At least it's not just about art. This is about life. This is about living a meaningful life. This is about becoming somebody that you respect. So, a meaningful life for me and for a lot of philosophers is a life where you overcome hardship in a meaningful way. You overcome hardship to achieve something that's meaningful for you. And this is what we're wired to do. This is deeply satisfying to get something that's hard, that's valuable, and that you did it yourself and you had to suffer for it. It feels amazing when you do that. And then the self-esteem thing is when you achieve things that are hard, that you know the struggle that you went into, that's like, that's how you build respect for yourself, right? Like when you hear about somebody who achieved hard things, who had obstacles and came them anyway, you respect that person. And if you do it, you become somebody you respect. This is what I really dislike about so much self-help stuff is it just makes you feel good in the short term. But it doesn't change anything. You don't really believe it because people who have self-esteem, who have self-respect, they don't have to tell themselves how great they are. They don't have to have affirmations that tell themselves they're good enough. They go out and prove it. And then you really believe it. I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about. Oh, yeah. One more thing. When it comes to identity, um, identity is even stronger when it's not just you, but it's a community, which is why I'm glad so many people are here today. And what I really what I've been really happy about from this Discord group is that I think we really have a great community here. And it reinforces it's not just me. I'm not just an artist. We're artists. We're in this together. Um, what else did I want to cover? Let me check my notes. Um, I'm about 3 to 4 years into my 5 year journey, and I think the 5 year mark is pretty neat. I do too, Talon. I do too. Yeah. Congratulations.
Like I've had people pay me money for art. It's not exactly where I want it to be like like a product, but I feel it's so close. And like this, like 2 to 3 hours a day is like, yeah, I can do art for 8 to 10 hours. I'm addicted to it. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get this like runner high where you just have to keep on going.
Yeah. I totally feel that. Like I do art first thing in the morning, and that hour for like hour and a half, man, the end of that hour and a half, I just want to keep going, but I have to stop and do work, which is also art, so I'm not complaining, but
Yeah.
I totally feel you. So tell me, was this your experience as well, where you built up slowly to becoming somebody who identifies as an artist?
It has been. It has been. Earlier, I'm 36, and earlier in my life when I was going to like college and stuff, it really wasn't an option, but ironically, it probably could have been because that was like the perfect time for like a lot of artists to really take off. In the past like 3 to 4 years, I've had a lot of like life troubles, and I've kind of poured that energy into art. And now I feel a lot more confident, and I do identify as an artist. And I use that to connect with other people, especially like not, and I'm not even talking like offline. I'm talking like I'm not even talking like online. I'm talking like offline, in person,
Mhm.
meeting with other people, going to figure drawing and all that. And yeah, it's like I've kind of stripped away like the things I used to do, like video games and whatnot, and it's pretty much just kind of all art and like tabletop role playing games. You know, anything social and anything that can feed back into my art. So that's kind of how my identity is evolving. You know, even at my age.
That's fantastic. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
yeah, so I realized that I haven't actually talked about how to study. Uh, I think I touched on it a little bit that this is a separate lecture, and I think I already did one if you go back in the Actually, I know I already did one if you go back in the archives of the previous recorded classes. There's one called Intro to Imaginative Drawing where I talk more specifically about how to study. I also have a free course, the Get Wins course. There's a link in the description, or in the official resources if you're on Discord, um, that gives you specific instructions like do this for. I guess it's not specific about time because it's self-directed, so people. I don't want to leave out people who can't do a certain amount of time, but like if you have the time, do this for the amount of time that you have, that kind of thing, and it builds. Because just doing 3 to 5 years of drawing, that's great, but that's not going to get you your black belt. Um, like if you've ever seen Step Brothers, where they're like, let's do karate, and then they're just like play fighting the whole time, that's kind of the equivalent of not actually studying, like, and just doing art. It's not the same because that's stupid, and making your own art, even if you don't really have a plan, that is going to improve your art, but not to the same degree of when you actually study in a way where you're intentionally trying to improve specific skills. Um, so if you want more resources on how to study, they're available in the Discord group, in the links in the description. The book that I have is all about that as well. It's what to study, but it's also how to study. And I'm working on a second edition right now, which is even more focused on the how to actually learn it, not just the information. Um, my thing is all about purpose. If I don't want to draw, I need to find purpose. Yeah. Yeah, I think that purpose ties in really well to that. And the purpose that I'm pitching here is getting that black belt. But you can find a different purpose if it works for you. Um, so yeah, there's lots of resources that I have available if you want to get better. Um, the most powerful thing I have to offer is the mentorship, where I meet with you for an hour at a time, usually once a week, and keep you accountable, give you specific things to work on, give you personalized feedback. That's the best way that I have to help you get better. But if you want to do it on your own, I have lots of resources to help you. And this is really what I want from this lecture, is because I have so many resources, but a lot of people just don't engage with them consistently, and they don't get the most out of it because of that. So I wanted to help you guys find the way to actually be consistent, make that improvement, and get that black belt drawing in 3 to 5 years. Um, Any questions before I wrap?
No, I don't think I have any question. Just like I just want to thank you again for all the classes and this server and everything.
You're very welcome. Thank you. I love the black belt framing. Thank you. Yeah, thanks everybody for coming out. This is my favorite of all these free classes I've done so far. This one felt really good. This is something I've been thinking about for a long time. This one felt really good to get out and to put out into the world. So thanks again. You guys have been a fantastic community. Really super proud of what we built together. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link to join the Discord group. We have an amazing community. Yeah, I got my plugs in. Let me just check my notes. I think I said everything. You have been an amazing teacher, Mr. John. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Thanks for the kind words. It's why I do it, to try to help people. Because I've had great mentors in my life, so I want to pay it forward. Yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say. Thanks again, everybody, for coming out. And yeah, we'll keep doing these. We do these every week, every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is -8 UTC. And yeah, hope you can make the next one. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye bye. Thank you.